The air was refreshingly cool, a nice change from the usual summer warmth, and the soft bubbling of the nearby hot tub created a calming rhythm. Normally the house would be alive with activity, especially when my stepmom hosted her get-togethers, but tonight was different. It was just me. I had quietly helped myself to a glass of wine from the fridge and was lost in my thoughts when I heard the sliding door open. My stepmom, slightly tipsy, stepped outside with a couple of her friends following closely behind. They were giggling, drinks in hand, and it didn't take them long to spot me sitting there alone. "What are you doing out here by yourself?" my stepmom asked, her lips curling into a playful grin. I shrugged, unsure how to answer. I hadn't expected any company, especially not hers. She and her friends were dressed in bikinis under their robes, clearly ready to enjoy the hot tub. "You should join us," one of her friends teased, her tone light and playful. I looked away, feeling a bit awkward, but before I could say anything, my stepmom approached, taking the wine glass from my hand with a mischievous gleam in her eyes. "Come on, don't be shy," she urged, pulling me up from my seat. "It'll be fun." "The water's perfect tonight." I hesitated for a moment, but there was something in the way they all looked at me that made it difficult to decline her invitation. Her friends giggled as I finally stepped toward the hot tub, slipping out of my clothes and joining them in the warm water. Their laughter filled the night air, a sharp contrast to the quiet solitude I'd been enjoying just moments before. I lingered near the edge, feeling out of place, but my stepmom gave me a knowing look, patting the spot beside her. Reluctantly, I joined them, the hot water soothing against my skin, easing a tension I hadn't even realized I was holding. At first I sat quietly, unsure of what to expect. "Relax," one of her friends said softly as she leaned back into the water. "We're all just here to enjoy ourselves." My stepmom handed me another glass of wine, her fingers lingering on mine for a moment longer than seemed necessary. Whether it was the warmth of the water or the wine taking effect, I began to feel more comfortable. The conversation was light, mostly small talk, but there was an underlying tension in the air, like a current running beneath the surface. I couldn't ignore it. After a while, my stepmom shifted closer, her shoulder brushing against mine as she spoke. Her friends watched us, their smiles playful, as if daring me to react, but I stayed still, unsure where this was leading. As time went on, the mood changed. My stepmom casually rested her hand on my arm, her touch lingering longer than expected. My heart started racing, but I tried to stay calm. She leaned in, her breath warm on my ear, as she whispered something that sent a shiver down my spine. Meanwhile, her friends continued to splash around, though I knew they were still paying attention. One of them moved closer, her eyes locking with mine briefly before she smiled a smile that made me shiver. Before I realized it, I was surrounded. The warmth of the water, the wine, and their nearness made everything feel unreal. My stepmom leaned in even more, her lips brushing lightly against my cheek in a teasing way. Her friends giggled softly, and the tension in the air thickened with each passing second, as if the rest of the world had disappeared, leaving just the four of us in this bubble of warmth and anticipation. Her hand slid down my arm, and I could tell that something had shifted. It wasn't just playful anymore. Her friends seemed to be involved now, their laughter quieter, their eyes lingering a little too long. I could hardly focus as her whisper hung in the air, sending a chill down my spine. Her fingers traced slow, lazy patterns across my chest, and her friends stayed close, their hands wandering, their lips occasionally brushing my skin. Each touch became more deliberate, more intense, and I felt completely surrounded. Everywhere I turned, there was a gentle caress or a warm body drawing nearer, pulling me deeper into this surreal moment. It seemed as though it might last forever. One of her friends leaned in, her hand sliding up my chest before she kissed me again. Her lips were soft yet assertive, and the mix of their touches was overwhelming, as if they instinctively knew how to make me completely lose control. "You've been waiting for this, haven't you?" she whispered, her words stirring something deep inside me. She stood so close, her body firmly pressed against mine, making it difficult to think clearly. Before I knew it, her other friend appeared beside us, her fingers tracing down my arm, her lips brushing my jawline. "You've earned this," she whispered softly, her gaze locking with mine, filled with a playful yet intense look. Her warm breath caressed my skin as she leaned in for a slow kiss, her hands gently pulling me closer. My stepmom leaned back just enough to meet my eyes, her gaze dark and filled with an emotion I couldn't quite grasp, but one I understood deep down. A slow, teasing smile spread across her face, sending a wave of nervous excitement through me. "We're just getting started," she murmured, while her friends chuckled softly, their fingers still tracing soft, deliberate patterns across my skin. I wasn't sure how much more I could handle this intoxicating blend of warmth, anticipation, and the unspoken promise of something more was almost too much. They all seemed to know exactly what to do, moving in perfect harmony, as if everything had been planned. I didn't want the moment to end. One of her friends, the one closest to me, leaned in again, her lips brushing mine in a kiss that was softer, more intimate. Her fingers traced my face as she drew me closer, her body pressing into mine beneath the water. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, fast and steady, mirroring my own. My stepmom's other friend moved in beside us, her hands sliding around my waist as she came closer. Her lips barely touched mine before she pulled away, her eyes sparkling with playful mischief. My stepmom watched, her smile growing as her friends teased me. She leaned in, her lips so close I could feel her breath on my skin. "Are you enjoying this?" she whispered, her voice soft and seductive. I was speechless, unable to find the words, so I just nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. Her lips met mine in a slow, lingering kiss, her hand resting on my thigh. It felt like she was trying to undress me, her hands seeking something, and in the rush, I lost control, spilling sauce on both of us. Afterward, we all relaxed in the hot tub as the night wore on. The water continued its gentle bubbling, but the earlier intensity had softened. My stepmom shifted slightly, her hand still resting lightly on me, but her expression had changed, now softer and more at peace. Her friends were quiet, their smiles gentle as they soaked in the warmth. It felt like the earlier excitement had faded, and we were all just enjoying the moment. After a while, my stepmom sighed, offering me a warm smile. "That was fun," she said softly, her tone calm and relaxed. "We should do this again sometime." Her friends nodded in agreement, their playful smiles still lingering. Everything felt more peaceful as they slowly climbed out of the hot tub, wrapping themselves in towels and giggling quietly as they headed inside. My stepmom was the last to go, glancing back at me over her shoulder with a sparkle in her eyes. "Good night," she whispered, before disappearing indoors with her friends. I lingered in the hot tub a little longer, letting the warmth of the water soothe me. My heart was still racing, but I knew the evening had come to an end. The night had been unexpected, intense, and unforgettable, but now everything was calm again, just me and the quiet of the backyard. As I leaned back and closed my eyes, a smile crept across my face, knowing that after tonight, things would never be the same.